You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I, Jovin B. Biju, on behalf of Rungta College of Engineering and Technology, welcome you all to this webinar. In this warm afternoon full of creativity and fresh ideas, we are honored to have Mr. Atanu Roy Chowdhury, founder Capsule Labs, as our chief guest, who truly has set a benchmark for multi-hyphenated achievement. Sir, we are honored to have you here today. Mr. Atanu Roy Chowdhury is the founder of GapCode. He is a techno-functional consultant for IoT and AI-led curriculum development and digital transformation ventures. He is a technology advisor to the Ramgir Foundation and its incubator. He is part of board of mentors at the Atal Incubation Center, Sikkim Manipal University Technology Business Incubator, and KL University Technology Incubator Foundation. He is an industry expert with industry incubation cells at Government College of Engineering and Leather Technology and Calcutta Institute of Technology. He teaches intelligent process automation at JIS University. He has developed the curriculum and taught innovation and entrepreneurship development and Internet of Things at Calcutta University. He has provided and solutioning support to Atlantic's global sales team for over 100 IoT solutions. Prior to Altix, Atanu was a member of technical staff at Infotech Set Labs, Harvard Sensor Networking Lab, TechPoldia Advanced Technology Solutions Lab, and Blue Highway. He has postgraduate degrees in computer science from IIT Guwahati and Harvard University. He is a senior member of IEEE and CSI. He has published over 35 papers and patents in the area of IoT and wireless sensor networks during the active research career. He brings in over 17 years of transnational professional experience. Now, without taking much time, I would like to invite Mr. Atanu Roy Chowdhury for the session. Over to you, sir.
And wanted to welcome all of you again to this discussion. And what I was covering was essentially saying that large companies, tech giants today, they started off with probably very, very humble beginnings. Right? They started off with trying to solve problems that their founders care deeply about. Right? Be it Amazon, be it a Google, be it a WhatsApp, be it an Uber. Right? Even if I look at something like a Facebook, right? Facebook pretty soon realized that people like things and people like people. So if you could get them to click on a like button, it would start creating a lot of personalization information, right? Because people were telling the rest of the world what they liked and what they did not like. And that created a new wave of essentially digital marketeers, if you will, right? And Facebook was able to monetize that significantly. If you look at Airbnb figured out that people, when they were traveling for various events, it was hard to find hotel rooms. And during the recession, many people were willing to rent out their spare bedrooms. And that is what created Airbnb. Just said that let's give people a no-frills, decent room, especially during events, right? Created a whole new industry by itself, right? So what I wanted to impress upon all of you today is that these companies, these large tech giants, they did not become tech giants overnight. But what they did was they were able to solve a very fundamental problem. And that really is the crux of what's driving this code fiesta, right? Where we want to also identify the next set of innovators who are just solving a problem, right? Now, if I go into the tracks of this particular event, right? The event is broken up into 4 tracks, right? You have blockchain-based e-voting systems. You have the second track, which is essentially obscene content detection. And the third part, which is image processing. The fourth part, which is an open track for student innovation. Now, what is interesting about these tracks, right? When you are thinking about innovation, right? Innovation really has 2 parts to this, right? There is a part which is on the technology part, right? What technology are you going to use? And the second part to this problem is what is called the domain, right? What application are you going to be using it for? Right? Often the technology kind of follows the domain, because the problem that you are solving, you have to start thinking about who are the potential users of this particular application that I'm trying to build. How would they use this particular application, right? Where would they use it from? What would they want to see in this application? To give you an example of that, let me break up that first track a little bit more, right? The blockchain-based e-voting system. And here there are two key words. One is blockchain and the other is e-voting, right? So from a technology perspective, if you are using blockchain, the question arises that which aspect or what aspect of blockchain are you planning to use? Are you looking at its distribution capabilities, right? Are you looking at its encryption capabilities, right? Of digital signature and all of those? Are you looking to use blockchain primarily as a distributed ledger and you are looking at its immutability capabilities, right? Is that what is more important to the particular application? Is it the tokenization, right? Is it that you are able to create NFTs or you're able to create some token that must be used for your e-voting system? Or is it the decentralization capability of running smart contracts on a distributed computer, essentially? That's what Ethereum gives you, right? So which aspects of the technology are you going to be using in your application? And then the application itself, right? Who is your target audience? Voting does not necessarily mean that it is for general purpose elections or general elections. Elections or voting is required in multiple places. Shareholders of a company may want to vote during a annual general meeting, right? You can have participants in a reality show, and the general population votes on who should be kept in the show and who should be chucked out, right? You can have society members in a housing society voting for the president and all of that, right? You can have voting within a WhatsApp group itself, getting to know what are the preferences of a particular group, right? Voting could be a yes/no answer. Voting could be an option, could be requiring you to answer one among several choices, right? So the domain itself, right? The application of the problem, right? For shareholder voting, for example, right? Shareholders, you don't get one vote per share that you hold. So different shareholders in a company, their votes may have different weightages based on how many shares of the company that they own, right? In a WhatsApp group, right, admins could have more privileges about the voting. So depending on your application, right, your voting mechanism could change. Whether you need to use just the immutability part of it, keep an open track about the votes that have been cast, or you want to take things a little deeper, that is completely up to you. And that is where, if you mix and match the technology and the domain, right, what you will find is that is where there comes in this scope for innovation, right? Let me move on to the second track, right, which is essentially around obscene content detection, right? Again, if you break this up, there are to this, right? One is the detection part, right? One is the detection part where you are going to be using technology, right? Whether it is in terms of video processing, right? Frame by frame, you're processing each frame one after the other and trying to figure out if things are changing over there. You may want to find out if there is a certain amount of skin tone that is visible on a particular frame, right? Or it could get into images, or it could get into texts, right? Or which becomes more of natural language processing. It could get into even memes and emojis, right? And from a domain perspective, you are trying to look at what kind of an application are you trying to build it for. If you're trying to do sentiment analysis, then you are probably trying to do what you might be wanting to do is process a lot of text, right? And see if there is depressing content in the text itself, right? Or if you are, for example, creating data on which you are going to build a machine learning model, right? In that case, you want to ensure that obscene content does not get into your training data, right? For those of you who are familiar with chat GPT, right? There's a lot of effort that has gone in terms of curating the content that was used to train the chat GPT models, right? You could be looking at doing this content detection for a legal intervention processes, right? Which could be for, say, for example, license plate recognition systems, right? Or, which would bring in some kind of an optical character recognition system, right? Or it could be for detecting abuse in a particular video, right? So there are different domains you could use it for. You could use it to find out if there is misinformation that is being spread and try to narrow down on the source of that misinformation, right? Or you could be using it for forensic analysis post facto of an event, right? So that obscenity, that word has a very cultural context to it, right? Whether it is vulgarity, or it is misinformation, or it is depressing thoughts that are being issued, right? Or it is content that has the potential to create a public nuisance, right? All of them can be classified under obscenity, right? So again, it opens up multiple applications that you can build depending on the particular domain that you are targeting, and the technology that you need to be using in order to target that particular domain, right? But always remember that the kind of application that you are building, it must have the right kind of interfaces so that it can be used by the target audience, right? For example, if you are trying to create an application for legal intervention, you must have a mechanism to for legal representatives to be able to access that information, right? So you are creating that information to be consumed by them, right? So you must make sure that you are able to handle the kind of people who are going to be using that application, right? So it's a very specific topic, and I'm sure many of you will come up with interesting ideas to look at in this track as well, right? Coming to the third track, it's the image processing is a larger area, right? So you could, again, from a technology perspective, you could be looking at an image and seeing if you can create a bounding box around the objects of interest, right? Or you could be looking at image compression, right? Can I do something that is better than a JPEG, right? Can I do something that is, can I improve upon the container that is used to store one of these images, right? Can I make it easier for MP4s to store images, right? So it could be in terms of image compression, it could be in terms of character recognition, again, a lot of edge detection that you do around that, right? Or it could be classifying images, right? If an image is for a bicycle, or if an image is for a car, right? You could look at, can you make it possible for a system to identify new things that it has not seen before and label them, right? Most algorithms will be able to tell you that something is different, that you found something that is not in your training set. But what that is, it may not be as easy to classify, right? So that's where image classification comes in. Or you could be doing object tracking. How does a particular object move across frames, right? For those of you who are cricket fans, you know of the decision review system. We know about how we can project if a ball is going to hit the stumps or not, right? So that's object tracking. And that is done using multiple camera systems, right? Again, the domain comes in. What domain are you going to use it for? Are you going to use it for law enforcement, for, again, number plate recognition, figuring out if a particular car has skipped the red light? Or it could be for process automation, right? It could be for figuring out if a particular product that was created meets, it has certain cracks in it or not. And you could just take a picture and compare it with a reference picture to figure out if there is a defect in a particular product. It could be for entertainment. DRS system is an example of that, right? It could be for quality control to figure, not only in process automation, but you use it to read labels automatically, QR codes. You want to read that automatically, or it could be for digital rights to figure out if the content that you are using is has open rights or it has closed rights, right? If a video has digital rights information embedded in it, right? And how to propagate the digital rights information so that if somebody were to take a piece of that image, it would still show up as they have them having copyright over it, right? It could be used in diagnostics, not only for various kinds of not only for various kinds of products. It can be used for clinical diagnostics. It can be used for diagnosing if you could use it on a satellite imagery to figure out what is the kind of crop utilization or the crop yield that is likely in a particular region, right? For those of you who have not seen the picture I have in the background, right, that's a picture that was taken by the James Webb telescope when it was one of the first test images that it created. And that image is created by essentially superimposing the image that was captured by multiple mirror systems. Right, all of them had to be tuned, and that is why you see the six pointed star that essentially comes up because of the refraction of the physics itself. Right, but you find that application of image processing is not only used from our cell phones on a day-to-day basis, but also for space technology as well, right? So depending on the problem that you are trying to solve, right, the picking the right set of technologies that allow you to solve that problem, that becomes important, right? So in this particular hackathon, what you should all remember is whatever problem you are picking up, whatever problem you are presenting, you are submitting for consideration, just make sure that that problem is something that is solvable in the 36 hours and all that you have, right? After all, the net objective of creating this whole hackathon, Central India's biggest hackathon, if you will, right, is to bring together innovative minds from all over the nation in a single place and to foster a coding culture among the students, right? So what the institution is providing is just an incentivization mechanism. It's just incentivizing innovation for you to all come together to put your ideas out there and try to implement it. So it is supporting the problem solvers, right, to come into one place, giving you a platform where you can spend an entire day looking at different ways to solve the problem, right? Writing some code in order to build out pieces of the solution so that they can be strung together. You don't have to worry about the quality of the solution, right? As long as you are putting in the effort to ensure that as much of the solution is solved, right? You have a working prototype out of it, right? And in the process, what will end up happening is your entrepreneurial spirit, right? The fact that you are innovating, that entrepreneurial spirit will get liberated. That's the overall objective. That's the overall objective, that many of you out of this program may become job creators instead of job seekers. Talking about this entrepreneurial spirit, right? I actually talked about innovation before I brought in entrepreneurship, but in my mind, right, what I generally see is that this entrepreneurial spirit comes up before, right? The fact that many of you will be submitting your answers, submitting your proposals, traveling to the institute, spending some time there, right? That's part of your spirit. That already shows that you are ready to take that act of risk, right? And that innovation comes in terms of creating a new experience or improving upon a process efficiency. Why is this needed? This is extremely important because it opens up a completely new career path. Many of you after graduation were thinking about getting into higher education. You were probably thinking about getting into the public sector careers or into professional careers, or getting into higher education and then picking up one of these two careers. But Entrepreneurship essentially gives you a completely new option to this, right? As a career path itself. It's not like a public sector career. It is not like a professional career as a job seeker, right? It's a completely new path, right? And that is something that is the need of the hour today. Right. If I look at your backgrounds, somewhere down the line, right, we, our parents at our dinner tables, most of us discuss about getting into a good college, having a good education. We do not discuss entrepreneurship at the dinner table, right? That's a conversation that needs to change. Of course, if you're coming in from a family business, you may have already had that exposure to discussing about the suppliers, discussing about the vendors, discussing about how to improve the product that you are building, that your family has been building for so long, how to bring about growth in the business using digital media or other technology innovation. So if you are coming in from a family business background, you may already have had some exposure to entrepreneurship, right? But for the rest of us, right, I think this conversation needs to start. And the hackathon that has been organized is just one way to start this discussion, right? Today, there are several schemes that are available from the government as well as from private entities in terms of how you can go about and build a career in entrepreneurship, right? Whether it is that you want to start a micro, small, medium enterprise, or even a workshop, right, which focuses on creating a capacity for building products within the country. And there are several schemes available, including the Make in India program, which offers a lot of incentives for people who want to set up small workshops, right? Creating a small parts, creating packaged food, creating handicrafts, right? So this kind of products with essentially solving a supply problem, right? So there is definitely a lot of support for that. There is also a lot of support for the startup ecosystem, especially companies which are trying to become limited liability companies. In fact, in India today, the Companies Act of 2013 allows us, to create companies which are not as rigid as private limited organizations. These are companies where there is pretty much no liability on the directors should something happen to the company. Right? So this is why there is a lot of support available from various stakeholders where you can bring in the innovation that you have developed, right? The problem that you started solving, perhaps at this hackathon, it starts to grow in your mind, and you are able to refine that problem a lot more. You're able to talk to many other people and understand what is the real scope of the problem. If you think that it is a problem, then there are others like you who may also find this to be a problem that is bothering them, right? And that is why building a solution in India helps us to do that at a much reduced price point, right? I'll come to what are the schemes that are available for the startups in a little bit. Finally, I also want to shed light on another form of enterprise that you can get into, which is called one-person companies or practices. If you want to become a digital designer, if you want to become a lawyer, if you want to become a coder, right, rather than becoming a freelancer, why don't you set a one-person company around it? This allows you to essentially hire people down the line. This allows the OPC is something that is recognized by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. It is a registered organization. It will allow you to raise funds more seamlessly. It will allow you to bring in your legitimate business expenses, right, outside a tax, outside the purview of taxation, right? If you're incurring legitimate business expenses, and it is a good way to start creating employment within the country, right? So if you are a subject matter expert, if you are already doing an advanced degree, or if you have already spent a lot of time doing research, you can definitely monetize that experience as a one-person company, right? So the good thing, why this is the right time to probably start up a company in India is because there are a lot of underlying factors behind it, right? And I think there are three main factors which I want to point out in today's discussion, right? The first part is that there are a number of enabling technologies that are available, right? And these enabling technologies act as significant accelerators. Solutions which could not be thought of earlier on can be built in a matter of days, if not a day, right? There is also a changing workforce in terms of what are the jobs that are available in the market and what are the new jobs that are coming in, how that workforce itself is changing, right? And the third part that I want to focus on is the schemes for incentivizing young innovators like yourselves, right? Coming to the first point, right, in terms of enabling technology, if I look at the overall scheme of things, you'll find that India has been investing significantly in terms of building up infrastructure that can be leveraged in multiple applications, right? Rather than thinking about building 10 unicorns over the next 10 years, why don't we start thinking about building a million one-person companies and startups, which are all adding deep value? And how will they add deep value? Now, it is not unsurprising that pretty much every one of you have used a UPI interface. It's a massive, so just imagine only a few years ago, if you had to do a digital transaction, a digital financial transaction, you had to use either your credit card, your debit card, or internet banking, right? Suddenly that entire experience has become seamless. Today, India is going cashless because even at a local chai wala, they may be willing to accept an UPI, right? It's fundamentally transformed the way we do payments, and we are no longer worried about small value transactions. Even that, we do not have to, the government has already made that investment in the infrastructure in order to facilitate, billions of transactions happening on pretty much on a regular basis, right? So that's the power of UPI. If you are building an app, you want to charge for that app, the UPI gives you a very good mechanism to integrate it quickly into your app and be able to charge your customer for it, right? The Aadhaar card, right? The world's largest biometric database. Right? It solves a fundamental know your customer problem, right? So if you are trying to build apps like finding out if for example a railway ticket booking, right, or for example looking at providing subsidy information or providing information to farmers about fertilizer subsidy, you can integrate Aadhaar directly into the point of sale itself, right? And that allows you to do a significant amount of leakage reduction in your subsidy supply chain. Right. If you wanted to integrate Aadhaar in your voting mechanism, right, we were already talking about blockchain, right? So Aadhaar with blockchain becomes a very interesting and powerful combination, and you don't have to worry about implementing Aadhaar anymore. It is already available, right? Not only the payment part, even the taxation part is taken care of by this large infrastructure, which is the GST infrastructure, right? DigiLocker, another mechanism that allows you to go paperless, right? It's a digitally certified original copy of any document that you have, right? A very underutilized infrastructure is called API Setu. I don't know how many of you have used it, but all public offices which have all public digital, Digital India e-governance projects, right? The APIs are publicly available, and it is very easy to take up that API and build an application. In fact, I was giving this talk a couple of days ago at a central university in Bilaspur, and essentially, I wanted to build an app, and I wanted to do something for my talk. So I went ahead to the API Setu website, and it had all the APIs for validating a document that were listed on API Setu with all the post commands, with all the data formats, and it was already hosted on a test server. I took up that information, went to ChatGPT and said, hey, help me create a request form for, with this particular request body, right? Help me create a post function around that. it created a application. It gave me code for that. I went to another website called Mixer and said, I want to build a website with, where people can come in and they can validate their certificates. A matter of seconds, and I had a website up. So in all, this whole process took me about 15 minutes. And you have a working prototype of a website where you can put in your ID and it will fetch it will validate whether your certificate is valid or not, right? It's minimal effort. And that's where innovation comes in, right? If somebody were to build this application and create it for the students of that particular university, and even if they wanted to look at other monetization channels like creating an ad stream revenue out of it, it's very much possible. So building that app is no longer expensive, right? That's what we are looking for in this hackathon, right? Where you are able to produce tangible output, where you are able to produce this kind of output within the 36 hours that you have available with you, right? That's the aim. That's our hope of what you'll be able to achieve in this program, right? Also, moving on, what I would also want to focus on is that you have to understand that the workforce itself has changed significantly. If you were to go and talk to your parents or probably your grandparents, they would say that they got their jobs because somebody introduced them to an office, and the next day they were working there. Right? Somebody said, "Please come and join." That has changed significantly, right? With the introduction of the e-commerce economy, when store workers, the requirement for store workers were replaced with more of IT workers to manage the virtual store rather than people managing relationships at the store itself, right? So that's the change that e-commerce brought in. With the app economy, creating an application, creating a mobile a website was no longer, and putting it in front of people was no longer expensive, because you could just build an app in no time, put it up on a Play Store. People would download it, whether they paid you a fee per download or you made your money from ad revenues. Like, think of something like a Candy Crush. Angry Birds, right? Simple addictive games that made billions just because they were on the App Store. Suddenly, reaching your customer is easier than ever before, right? So we saw this app economy come in. Many people, getting in the business of building apps throughout the late 2000s, right? Until probably Facebook started to come in, and Facebook brought in the personalization, the digital marketing specialists, right? People who understood all click-through rates, people who understood how what kind of a product a particular individual who has clicked a button, right? What kind of products they are likely to buy, and the fact that this information is worth money. Over time, especially over the pandemic, what we have seen is the emergence of the gig economy, right? People starting to not have to go to office, people working out of wherever they are, right? Not being geographically constrained within an office, right? So we started seeing, all the apps like Ola, Dunzo, Swiggy, right? People joining in as a full-time or even working on it part-time, right? Giving a lot of employment within the country. But over the last couple of years, what has happened is another fundamental shift coming in, where we are seeing a change from IT services probably being able to recruit as many people to new kinds of jobs that are coming in. And these jobs require you to have interdisciplinary knowledge. These jobs require you to be problem solvers, right? So this is the interdisciplinary economy that we are starting to witness, right? And this has accelerated over the last 3 years. Probably it will accelerate even more with the emergence of generative tools like DALL-E and Midjourney and ChatGPT, right? So if I look at the ecosystem of even large product companies, they are going through a lot of furloughs, because just understand, whereas you earlier needed a 5-6-person team, right? 4 people to write code, 1 person to review code, 1 person to test that code, and 1 person to deploy that code, right? Instead, maybe the code reviewer is going to be asked to generate that code themselves and look at for bugs in it. So the work that 5 people or 6 people were doing can be done in probably by 1 or 2 people, right? So there's going to be a change. This is pretty much a one-way change, right? So the workforce is significantly changing. Therefore, we need more job creators. And the reason I say that the workforce is changing is because while that is something that is happening in the IT services sector, you have Air India buying 1,000 planes, right? So there are, in the next few years, there's going to be 1,000 planes in the 1,000 additional planes in the Indian skies. Each of them would have to be managed. There has to be an engineering team that has to manage all the aircraft maintenance. There will be a lot of cabin crew requirement for delivering services within the, in the aircraft itself. So we might see a reverse migration of probably people who were in the ITS sector migrating into cabin service and frontline management into the airline sector. You might see people who were who had a background in, say, for example, mechanical engineering, right, who had earlier were migrating towards IT. They may find work in the core sectors more lucrative, right? So there's going to be this change, and these changes happen. It is not the first time that this kind of a change has happened. It has happened in the past before, and the workforce is likely to change. But what will survive are knowledge-based industries, are ventures which have a fundamental contribution, right, which is solving a problem that people around them face, right? So this kind of problems, that is why it is important to set up companies by yourself. And this journey towards innovation is probably the first step towards it, right? Who knows where you'll be able to get from here, right? You have a lot of incentives for young entrepreneurs today, both with the Make in India program as well as the Startup India program itself. And there is a lot of activity around developing this culture of innovation, starting with this kind of hackathons. If as a student, right, so there are several opportunities that are available to you as a young professional, as a young innovator. But if you are a student, there are even more benefits associated with it, right? Because you might be worrying that, yes, what if I start a company and then what if I don't get a job, right? What if I, I'm going to spend a couple of years, what if it doesn't work out? Let me ask you to let me just ask you to look at this problem slightly differently, right? If you think that you are going to be wasting time in setting up a startup, think of it that the National Innovation and Startup Policy allows you to kind of do this startup while you are in college itself, right? If you are setting up a startup incubated in your respective institutional incubation cell, you will get attendance credit for working on your startup. You will get final year project credits, right, for the product that you are, for the prototype that you are building up, right? So there's pretty much by overlapping these two time periods, right? So essentially, you're not spending any extra time. You are still in college, but you have started out a company by yourself. If you think that money is the problem, right, there is support that is available from the government startup seed fund, right? Anywhere between 50,000 to up to 5 lakhs, up to 20 lakhs as well, right? As well as you get a lot of seed fund support from the IIC itself, right? So your basic expenses in terms of finding a space where you can start up, right, that will be get taken care of. If you are thinking of that you need pre-incubation support, who is going to market, what kind of a product am I going to build, you will get mentorship support from the IIC itself, right? So there is a lot of support ecosystem available right now, which makes it the right time to probably start up. If you are thinking that, the innovation that I am doing, what about the intellectual property of whatever I am building? Again, you get support from the IIC. There are schemes like the Kapila scheme, right, which allow you to file for a patent, and it waives off the attorney fees and all of that, so that the intellectual property belongs to the startup that you are setting up. Right, so it automatically, but just by the virtue of having that patent granted in the name of your startup, it increases the valuation of the startup itself. Right, so if these were your concerns, and I'm giving you a mitigation plan as to why you should be thinking about it a little differently. And in spite of it, if you find that, oh, there's an opportunity cost, right? What if my startup does not start to make money in the first couple of years? What if I'm losing money because I'm working in the startup? Well, look at it slightly differently. Look at it that while you are working on the startup, you are investing in yourself. Right, you are getting a lot of experience that you would have otherwise have to pay for while you're getting an MBA course. Right, your startup, even if the startup does not do well, the experience that you have gathered is more valuable to a company that you might seek employment in down the line. Right, but what if it does succeed? If it does succeed, then it gives you benefits for wealth creation. The startup will continue, even the company that you have founded will continue even if you are no longer working in the company, even if you're not actively managing it. It is something that creates employment. It is something that helps with nation building. It gives you that retirement flexibility. You can choose to retire. Most private organizations and most even public sector services has a strict retirement boundary at 60 years. As a director in a startup which gradually becomes an organization, you are free to work for as long as you want to, right? And add to that business experiences, right? So in doing this kind of an innovation workshop or this kind of an innovation hackathon, what is happening is we're trying to figure out where is it that your skills, passion, and the market demand are coming together, right? Because if you were doing something that where you had a lot of passion about, you had the skills for doing it, but nobody wanted that kind of a thing, then it would kind of remain a hobby, right? If you had the skills for it, yeah, the market had demand for it, but you are not enjoying it, it would be a job. It would be causing emotional stress for you, right? And if you had the passion for it, and if it had demand but you didn't have the skills, you would be failing in it recurrent multiple times, and it would just remain a dream. But what if you could bring all of this together? That's what a startup is about, where you bring in that passion, the skill, and the demand, and that essentially puts you into a performance overdrive, right? So rather than thinking, why should I build a startup? Think of it as, what do I have to lose? In the best case scenario, you could be one of the next 100 unicorns, right? In your most likely scenario, you might get a leg up in terms of your business. You might have, by the time you graduate college, you might have some early profitability. You might start to get to know about the market a little bit more. You might have early investors because you're starting to make some money. You're able to demonstrate the value of your ideas. You have local employees. You get to know your supply chain a lot better, and you have some IP that has been created. Your worst case situation is, if this does not work out, your recruiter comes in and tells you to talk about your professional experiences. You can always go in and say that, hey, I got myself a free MBA to show for, right? I tried doing out a business. That's your worst case situation, and that perhaps is better than many of the best case situation in a regular some of the other career options. Right, so with that, I will close my discussion, and I'll be happy to take questions. I also have the rest of the team from Rungta available here, right? Who can also take questions about the logistics and all of that. If you have any questions, you can probably ask your coordinator. You can pass on the mic to the ask your coordinator to kind of pass on the mic, or you can probably send the question through them as well.
Thank you so much, sir, for your encouraging and empowering words. It was indeed motivating and extremely informative. Before ending this session, I just want to remind you some important dates. The registration ends on 25th March this month, and the last date to upload the PPT is also 25th March. The result declaration of the first round is on 30th March and the grand finale on 15th and 16th April. And with this, we have come to the end of our webinar. I would like to thank Mr. Atanu Roy Chowdhury for accepting our invitation. And I would also like to thank everyone who made this meeting possible. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, team.